So people.
Oh, stop recording.
You have joined the meeting as an
Upper left-hand corner, hit the pause button.
All right. Welcome to our Tumwater Parks and Recreation Commission meeting for Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023. I will call the meeting to order and do roll call. This is so different not having nameplates. Why don't we just go around the room and say who's here?
Kelly, Joe Monroe, Joel Hecker,
Aaron Carrier.
Amy Hargrove.
Shane Harrington.
Excellent.
And I am Ann Gentile.
Bob Droll, landscape architect.
Don Carney, Public Works.
Excellent. And so we have Bill Kalapa, who's excused for the meeting. And we will move on to the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Todd or anyone else? Okay. We do not have our meeting minutes for our February 15th meeting, so we'll delay approval of those minutes. Do we have any public comment? Don't know how to even know that. Does not look like there's anyone on there.
Looks like they would have sent an email to Stephanie.
That's right. They would have had to send an email ahead of time. We just haven't had it happen.
I
don't
know.
want to be super, like caught off guard at some point. Okay.
Somebody is listening.
Okay. So then we'll move on to our preserve park naming. I'm assuming you have some information for us about that.
Yeah, so we did put this out to the public, the neighborhood, signs on part that we're taking in suggestions for names, and we have about 30 that made it to you today, and Chuck had reviewed them to make sure they're appropriate, not duplicated. And so these are the list. And then, of course, your role is to either pick one or a few to bring to council for approval or suggestions. Sometimes they change it and then bring it back to you, but that's the start, is for you to recommend what the park should be named. And I think I mentioned, but Debbie has respectfully declined at this time. The rest can be considered.
Right. Well, we haven't had discussion in a long time, so. So I gotta remember how to do that. Let's just have a discussion. Does anybody have names that jump out to them here?
Question first, isn't there some type of city
Yes,
code about naming things by people
Yes.
who are alive? You can't do that.
it is discouraged to name.
Even though I love Charlie, for the record, I love Charlie, Nancy, very much so. Make sure we're doing this in the legal bounds of.
If I remember correctly, it's,
It says it's not ordinarily done that for living persons, but it is.
Yeah.
But ordinarily it is not.
Like it's rid of 7.
well, we could pick it if we
We
want.
can pick it if we want, it's not illegal to have it, but it's frowned upon not to do it, that's what I was hearing.
Anybody know who James Carter is? Like Jimmy
Like
Carter, the
Jimmy Carter?
president, is that what it's supposed to be?
Park didn't make the list.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. I guess. I do like Kindred Park.
I was gonna say that was the one that came up.
Yeah, somebody said that, and then I looked at Reddit and I was like, oh, that, yeah, that is a good one.
I figured Preserve Park would show up several times as well.
That is, and it's hard too, because we often name a park as it's being developed just by its location.
Mhm.
And so sometimes it's hard to like, the T Street Park, I still call the T Street
So do
Park.
I.
Yeah, me too.
Even though it's. not
Shoots
that-
Valley.
View Park.
Shoots
Valley
Valley
Park.
Park, thank you. I dug into the history. Okay, so, oh, what about this William Owen Bush? Is this this is Bush's son?
Bush Park.
Because there's all this shit already complicated off of Linwood.
Mhm, mhm. Mhm. Okay. So I'm hearing some consensus around Kindred Park and Preserve Park. Are there any other parks that we like or names that we are excited about?
You know if there's any historical significance to that area before it was housing? History wise. Smart.
Not a clue.
I just remember it. I don't even really remember it being a developed farm. I remember it just being open land,
Yeah, it
like
was
prairie.
owned by an older woman until whatever, a decade ago, and then she sold it. I don't remember she didn't really have too much of a backstory we talked about, but just kind of followed him for a while.
Mhm.
She was holding out on selling it. The deal got too good.
Don't understand.
Timber Park, we put up a plaque that describes why it was named that way or anything like that.
Usually the main park sign just has the name. I'm trying to look to see if any
Yeah, I
of the
was trying to
boards
see.
have it on there. Usually it's just a name of the park. But if they do, I'm not sure, we can ask. Were you guys involved in designing that one? Okay, I didn't think so. Did you?
Yeah.
Do you remember if there's any other kind of signage planned other than the main park sign?
No, I didn't know it's park sign. I'm aware of. Yeah.
Just an ask.
Yeah.
Well,
It could be on the website.
Mhm.
Yeah, or
Like
opening ceremony.
Isabella Bush
Yeah.
Park, I feel like there's a blurb or something.
And there is gonna be a picnic shelter, so there's certainly a space where we could put something simple.
Something speaks to the history of the persons.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot of signs of like historical park, there's all sorts of little flags and stuff. I can't imagine it costs that much to put a little into the sign. Budget world here.
If that's not factored in to the expense of the park, could we use the revenue or the appropriation that we have in terms of our committee, that $20,000? Could we use that as a funding source for?
We
that
can.
kind of a storm?
Yeah, we can. Because there is a budget for this project, it would be, I think, nice to roll it into that piece of the budget, but
Yeah.
we definitely are at the beginning of our budget cycle, so we could do that.
As a plan B, perhaps?
Mhm. Okay, so we talked a lot about Kindred Park. Does anybody have strong feelings one way or the other about Preserve Park? Do you guys have any more discussion?
Then we'll call it Preserve Parks because it's in the preserve, regardless of what we call it.
Do you,
Ellington Street Park, we still call it
I
that.
know.
would we want to put a motion forward with both of these names to city council and let them select? Or, and I cannot make a motion. So if somebody would like to, if we would want to do that, then we can, or we can pick one.
I think last time we did it, we put 3
Did we?
council
Okay.
to choose from.
Something else.
Something else, yeah.
Well, that's what Chuck's not here, because I asked that question last time, is there a name that they're already thinking that they want to pick? That way, we added it to our list of recommendations, and that way.
This is just for the.
I'd vote that we give them both of them, just so they have a better chance of at least picking one of the ones you recommend.
I see the Y column as well. Admittedly, I didn't know as much about the kindred aspect of it, but
I did not either. It's nice to see that. And that's kind of how we came,
yeah,
like he was saying, that's kind of how we decided Isabella Bush Park. We kind of fiddled with how much of her name and,
Right.
and how we said it, but that's kind of the history behind it was important to us too. So does Chuck typically present this?
I'll explain that.
You will explain that.
And I know that we have tried to get away from naming parks that are like just a destination. Like T Street. But you're right. I still call it T Street sometimes. I catch myself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Most
yeah.
people probably don't do that. It's probably
Yeah.
just those of us that live through the development of park.
But trying to give it more of a sense of what the park is. Just a location.
Well, I do really like Kinder
Oh,
Park and I do like. the
Stan has
double
raised
meaning.
his hand,
Stan,
Dan.
so let me get him permission to talk. Hold on, Stan. I have the power.
Can you hear me? Okay.
yes.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Sam.
That is by far the first time I've ever raised my hand in the Zoom meeting. I want you to know. If I could make a recommendation about something, I would not leave it up to council. I would make a choice and make it firm, and it's from Parks Commission, and this is what we want. Don't leave it up to them. I mean, they'll have a choice anyway, but I would want you guys to have a firm decision and back it. That's my thought. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Stan. Appreciate that perspective.
I like Kindred Park.
You're going back to muted.
Okay, do you want to make a motion that we put forth the Kinder Park name?
Sure. I move that we name the new park Kindred Park.
Do we have any, do we have, you have a second? Okay, do we have any other comments about that? Okay, all in favor of suggesting or recommending to the city council that we name the new park in the preserve Kindred Park, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Awesome. I love it. Let's see how that works. Let's see if it sticks. Okay. And I got so excited, I forgot what we're doing. Okay, Trails End Park Master Planning. Is that you guys? Excellent. So this is Bob Droll.
Right.
And they are landscape architects and designers, right?
That's right.
Excellent. And you guys are doing the Trails End Park?
Yeah.
Is that
Let
correct?
me just jump right into it.
Please do. The floor is yours.
Okay, my name is Bob Droll, I'm a landscape architect. I've been doing this for about 43 years. And I've had the honor of working with Tom Water since '91. And we actually designed T Street Park, otherwise known as.
Valley View.
Keep saying it. It's gonna be Kindred Park again.
I still call it. And we've been involved with the golf course, several little projects in the golf course. We did a master plan, and preliminary design for the Shoots Valley Trail all the way from Historical Park up to Pioneer Park. And we've done a couple ball fields for you. You do it for this long, you cannot forget what you're working on. We worked on, we designed the trail in Tumwater Falls Park that goes from the parking lot down to the
Oh, yeah,
historical
yeah.
park.
Mhm.
We designed that retaining wall right there. We've been in front of the historical commission and this commission several times. It's been a while. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity to work on this project because it's in our backyard and we love working on Tumwater projects. Neighborhood park is really the basic building block. Stealing Ann's thunder. The basic building block of neighborhood park system and a community park system throughout the United States. This particular park has got a lot of history about it. And we know about that history. It is a wonderful site. It's a little bit larger than what you see for a neighborhood park. It's got the best soils in the county, and we should be thankful for that. Because it drains real well. It's got good soaring, bearing capacity. It's just nothing wrong with this park at all, except for blackberries and invasive species, which, you know, we can take care of. So our job here is to help the city and the citizens of Tumwater to arrive at a master plan that most folks can, you know, can get along with and develop consensus around. And in that process, we've developed 3 concepts that you see behind us. And those concepts are based on some program elements that you have fleshed out before that Anna will go through. And the 3 concepts are somewhat similar, but there are differences. And those concepts are over my left shoulder right here. And then we also have some image boards. There's 5 of them over here. And those image boards are, what could the park be developed at? What type of thematic feel could come out of this park? And you can kind of take parts and pieces of any of these and apply them to any of these park elements that we have here. But that's not what we're trying to do tonight and for the next public meeting. A week from this evening, we have a public meeting at the old ice chip building. And that starts at, I believe, at 6:30.
Yeah.
And we're asking for your help in that. We want you to engage with the public and help us engage with the public. The reason we do that is because it's fun for you, it's fun for us, and it lets you meet neighbors you haven't met before and understand where they're coming from. And it gives us the opportunity, Anna and I, of kind of roaming around and listening to different perspectives. So it's an open house type of a concept. And I want to go over that here after Ann is done explaining what the 3 concepts are and the image boards. But following that meeting next week, you know what I hope to get out of that meeting is everybody gets a green dot, we get the vote. And we hope to have a preferred alternative or elements of a preferred alternative that we can come back to you and say, okay, well, here's what we heard, here's what we saw. Let's put together a preferred alternative, which we will do. And then at the next public meeting, we will have that preferred alternative and hopefully kind of narrow it down. We're starting here and we're going to narrow it down to here, so that we can get to that preferred alternative. And at that point, you know, we'll have a lot more detail in these plans. The plans that you see right here is conceptuals. You'll look inside the bubble and you won't see the playground, that kind of stuff. That's intentional because we're not picking playgrounds right now. And, we're not even picking the concept of the playground. We're just exploring opportunities here and trying to get engage in the public on what their preferences are. So with that, I'll let Ann tell us what's going on with these 3 different
Can I
concepts.
ask you a question? When you're done sharing all of this with us, are you going to be able to give us a little bit more specifics about what we should be doing at each board when we're standing, whatever we're doing next week?
At the end of this, when Ann's done, I want to go through that.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
Great.
because
We
everybody.
have a lot of new people that are probably less comfortable with randomly engaging conversation and just.
Well, I can tell you right now is, let me just jump in it right now. So you're thinking about that as you're listening. This, I have not been in this room. Yeah, but assuming the room's got 4 walls, that what we're gonna do, the way we lay this thing out is that the public comes in these doors, it's kind of a greeting table. Here's where, and not everybody that walks in is gonna walk back to that greeting table. They're gonna go wherever they wanna go, and that's fine. That's fine. But if they happen to engage whoever's at this table, they will tell them, here's what's going on tonight. Here's what we're trying to get out this evening tonight, what the goal is. And then we'll have these in order, existing conditions, concept A, B, and C. And there'll be park commissioner, each one of the A, B, and C. And then when it comes to the image boards over here, one or two of park board members could be over here and kind of just explain, here are some ideas. These are not all the ideas. They're not the idea for this particular project. They're just a bunch of ideas, but just trying to get, trying to perk the imagination of the participants and get them to kind of imagine what could happen at this park. So I need probably 4, preferably 5, preferably everybody, to come to this meeting next week and work these tables. So when you're looking at this, you might want to think about, well, I want to be on B. All right, and when we're done here, give me a presentation. If you have questions about B, drill us and we'll be there to answer. Because you want to be able to answer what you can answer. But if you can't, that's why next week's public meeting, go, Bob, come over here because I can't answer this. And I can answer. So, and Ann can answer. So
That's for option A now. I've been reading it, great. I like option A.
Okay. I'm not assigning these things, but in my mind, if you volunteer, the boy, you get it. You know?
It's A.
But you know what? This really is it's a fun process, and it does engage the folks, and it gets personal versus me getting up there or Ann getting up there and pontificating about this being great, this and that. I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm trying to dispense ideas and creative ideas, and then gather creative ideas from the public. Nobody knows the site better than the neighbors. I don't know the site better. I did go and I did ride the bullet here one time, so I've got some history.
Really?
Huh?
That's impressive.
Yeah, no, I'm back in '91. I think it was. I got in there. So yeah, I know some history about it, and I know what's going on there now, but I don't know it like they do, because they're there all the time. They know what the behavior patterns of the folks that reuse it. Have at it. You're on.
So do you want to bring up the PDF on the screen too, so Stan can see? We'll start by going over the existing site conditions, this board here, and then we'll work our way around to the images. So Trailden Park is unique for several reasons. The site is large. It's about 17 acres. And we know that Thurston County is mostly shaped by glaciers. And that's really evident at this park because of this kettle landform that takes up the majority of the northern portion. And if you don't know, a kettle is formed by receding glaciers, and it'll leave behind a chunk of ice, and then sediment will build up around the ice, and eventually the ice melts and it forms a depression or sometimes a lake, like Ward Lake. The southern portion of the site is pretty flat, and that's kind of the area we're working in. It's about 8 acres. And we know this park is located in an area that's rich. You know the history better than I. The landscape used to be mostly oak savannas and prairies, which are no longer there. It is home to the Coast Salish Native Americans, and the George and Isabella Bush homestead is near the area. But more recently, it used to be home to the Trails End Arena, which Bob had mentioned. And that arena was demolished 5 years ago or so. But there's remnants of that with the gravel area, large gravel areas around the site, as well as asphalt paving. There is a building to the south still that is going to be demolished because of project and the future operations and maintenance facility. There is a significant native Gary oak tree on site, and it's kind of in that eastern lower portion of the park. There are utilities that are readily available along the roads, so you can have access to all utilities. There are street trees kind of around the edge. They're not consistent, but along Arab Drive Southeast on the right there is a sidewalk. And I mentioned that there's going to be a future operations and maintenance facility just across the street of Trails and Drive Southeast. The park is surrounded mostly by single-family homes, south, east, and north, and there's more commercial zoning to the west. And if you go further up north, there's multifamily housing and apartments. So that's kind of the community around there. Did you want to add anything to the existing conditions?
No, but other than, there's been a master planning process associated with the operation of the facility. And part of that, there was some visioning that for this park as well. And out of that came a list of program elements, which we were given by Parks and Public Works, and they expanded upon that a little bit to consider some other things that we'll talk about here today.
Yeah.
Question
So-
real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
When you say significant Gary oak tree, are you for like just 'cause it's large, or there's some type of historical significance to the tree that's there and staying in the plant?
I don't know any historical, but it is an old tree. It is probably over 100 years old. And something that big and old, and it appears healthy to me. Crown looks fairly uniform. I would say that it's
So significant in terms of size,
significant
not in terms
size
of
and
history.
stature. And we want to do everything we can to make sure it's healthy and remains, and use it. I mean, heck, it's the biggest tree in the park.
Yeah. So like Bob said, these three boards are the concepts, and we derived them from a list of program elements that were vetted during the OM facility process, and it was also vetted by Parks. And I'm gonna read that list so you know, have an idea of what those are. So design features are walking trails, native plantings, community garden space, water feature, group gathering areas, enhanced forested areas, community art, interpretive areas, trails, open play areas, accessible and unique play structures, discourage homeless encampments in design, pickleball, basketball court, picnic shelters, walking paths with benches, exercise stations along paths, restroom, pump track, playgrounds, splash pad, disc golf, and no scheduled athletic fields. And then there were some popular themes for interpretation that came out of that. So there's horse-related themes, which is a nod to the Trails End Arena, prairie, Trails End history, bush prairie, not in bushland claim, natural, bright, fun, inviting, safe. Those are some of the themes. So these three different layouts, they combine many of the features that I just read. But several of the design elements that we did are the same in each of these options, and I'll go over that. So I'll present on this board, so I'm out of your way. But the design features that are the same in all three is we're providing on-street parking, parallel on-street parking along Trails End Drive. There's about 20 stalls, and then we're providing 2 ADA stalls in the center. The entrances to the park are centered along parking. And the park core for all three are generally located in the south western side of the park because it's flat and cleared and it's close to the parking area. And a park core is considered the heart of the park. It's where all the main program elements are located, like the playground and the restroom. We are also preserving that existing Gary Oak tree in all of the concepts. We are providing trails and walking paths in various configurations in all three. We are also providing interpretive and an overlook area at the edge of this kettle in all three options. And then we're providing an open lawn and prairie. So the open lawn is indicated by this light green, it's the same in each, and then the prairie is indicated by this light yellow. We are also providing a buffer or landscape screen along this northern edge because there's neighbors right there. And then we're providing bio retention and stormwater infiltration along this northern area that will also capture stormwater from the OM facility. So that's the kind of the same location. Every alternative's got a restroom, a bike rack, picnic shelters, picnic tables, benches, and tree plantings in various configurations. And then we are not providing any access into the kettle because we don't want to invite people experiencing homelessness at this time. We also understand that in the kettle, there's going to be invasive species removal and plant restoration.
Are there a lot of trees in the kettle, or is it pretty open? I thought it was open, but then when
It
you
is-
said
it is
homeless, I
open.
was worried about, I was thinking more trees.
It is open, but if I can. yeah.
Sure.
There's the tree edge, and this property actually goes to a point. It's way over here,
Yeah.
and that's all tree.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not mapped, and we're not proposing it.
Does the kettle extend all the way to the point, or does the kettle bottom out like on our map here?
The bottom extends out to the point.
So let's keep it.
Are there future plans to develop into the kettle, like phase 2 or years down the road, or are we only developing to the point we're at now?
That you can't, 'cause wetlands.
Yeah. The elevation of it, the rainwater is go right on the way.
Yeah, I don't think there's any wetlands.
Not really, it's not a critical water at the bottom of that kettle.
Yeah, the soils are such, and the depth of the kettle is such that it's not in the groundwater. Yeah. If it was, then yeah. it'd be wetlands.
And in Bush Prairie neighborhood, right next to this, they built their neighborhood park in a kettle. And I looked in that neighborhood for several years and it never had water in it. It was never
Yeah.
flooded.
Yeah, I would suspect the soils here, they infiltrate anywhere from 10 to 20 inches an hour. These are the best soils in the county. I kid you not.
Very good. Yay, soil.
Yay, soil.
So we'll go over each of the concepts. So, am I blocking anyone? Concept A, we have a community garden in the front near the parking, and it's this large yellow triangle. And we located it there because it's near the parking, but also the people who live at the multifamily housing could access it here. It has room for about 15 to 20 large garden plots. And there's a storage and work shed there as well. This park core area in the front, it's got a 5,000 square foot play area and a 2,000 square foot splash pad, which is the blue, and then the play area is orange. And the basketball, there's this blue square that's the basketball half court. And in this alternative, the trail system extends the furthest to the north, whereas the other ones don't. In option B, we've got a 7,000 square foot play area, and that's the orange color, the same on all. And then we also have a pump track in this alternative, which is the purple. And a pump track is a looped sequence of rollers and berms It's designed to maximize your momentum when you're riding your bike, so you can ride with minimal pedaling. It's a really cool feature, and it would be paved. There are these light green forms that are in the lawn around the play area and pump track, and those are low berms or mounds that would be maybe 2 to 4 feet high to add some interest to the landscape and something for people to play on or climb. This option also has disc golf. So the disc golf starts in the parkour, and that's the frisbee type disc that's thrown in a series of metal baskets. And we have those baskets circling the outside area of the lawn, and it's these little blue dots.
The disc golf's on the perimeter of all the active.
Yeah, it's on the perimeter outside of the open line. We also have a full-size basketball court and an ADA pickleball court in this lower corner. And it's there separated a little bit because of the louder recreational activity going on there. And then concept option C. This parkour is a little bit more spread out. We show a pedestrian archway or a threshold at the entrance, and it's like a little red line. As you come in, the playground is the largest one in this option. It's 8,000 square feet. We have fitness station in this alternative as well. It's this little piece up here that's in between the playground and the pump track, and then a basketball circle. So that pump track is that purple form to the north, and the blue circle is actually 3 half-court basketball courts. So that means you get 3 hoops. And then there's an ADA pickleball court to the south, kind of set away because of the noise. And that fitness station is kind of located centrally, so if you have a family, you have adults and kids, the adults can kind of keep an eye on all of the different elements. Is there any questions or anything you want to add about concepts?
Well, yeah, all the concepts have SEPTED elements in it. That's probably mentioned in the environmental plan. So this is an open site. You could stand on almost any place in this site, except for the kettle and the area in the trees in the kettle, and just about see everything that's going on. We want to maintain that type of sight lines because, you know, fight or flight issues are always big deals for safety in parks. So we want to make sure you can see, assess a threat, and make a movement if you need to do so. We do have trees here. All these trees will be highly branched and the canopy up high, so you'll be able to look underneath it. You know, if anything, we probably need a little bit more trees in this park for shade. I think Ann mentioned that this, no matter which option you go with, it's going to have frontage improvements. Those frontage improvements have to do with curb and gutter and sidewalk and street trees. So we didn't really draw that in there because it's common on all of them. And it's my understanding that's kind of in the public works realm right now. And they're kind of planning on that in the somewhat near future. Is that right, Don?
Just not.
So it's not part, my point is, it's not part of the park, so it's not something we need to plan for.
Right.
Yeah.
But we do plan for this trail system to connect up to the site. So we want to provide entry points around the park.
So the entry points that we do have are pretty much the same on all of them. And that is, the main one right here is one you may know. Now there's another option right here. This cul-de-sac has got a right of way that comes right here, and this drops right off. We have not shown any pedestrian connections there because no one has said we wanted one there. No one said we didn't want one. I'd like to hear what the neighbor has to say about that, because access cuts both ways. And if they don't want anybody walking through there, then we should block it off. That's really kind of a very idiosyncratic neighborhood issue.
So what is it like now? It looks like it's dirt soil there?
It's just, you can walk there, but it drops off. There's some, there might be a beaten path there. I didn't really see it.
Yeah, I know.
Space a little bit.
But the site is at this concrete aggregate everywhere. And that is really to your benefit, but it's something we need to deal with in developing this park. So when Don and Public Works comes in here and builds this, I don't know the timing of it, this is key. But getting the soil out of here and using this, create small berms that Ann just talked about. Think of the Mine Mound idea in those meadow areas. That's a way to get free dirt and still create a very compelling landform in this park. It's one of those things that Stan and the crew are gonna have to mow once, maybe twice a year, but it's not lawn grass. I'm clear about that. It's not lawn grass.
Very glass.
Imagine roughing a golf course, but not necessarily that great. It's not getting irrigated. You find fescue, wildflowers. that
I
kind of
was
stuff.
wondering if there were gonna be wildflowers. That'd be nice.
Wildflowers have they have kind of a life to them. They kind of get overrun by other more aggressive plants
Mhm.
over time. But having, we don't, I mean, you could make all of this lawn, but that's a lot of lawn. It's a lot of water.
Yeah.
One acre of water in a park takes up to about 2 acre feet, which is about $6,000 per acre foot. So the cost of water is not going down. Even though this is probably close to reclaimed water, but even that you're paying for. So the goal here is not create more lawn. To create lawn that people will use, but the rest of it is just to keep it open.
What is future expansion of the parking site? What does that look like at the end of the park's built?
It'll be the same as the O&M parking. Currently, the staffing level, or the projected staffing level when the facility opens up isn't gonna need any more than that current O&M parking. But as staffing increases, then we'll need additional parking.
Will it be a parking lot when we open the park to the public?
Grassy, right? Grass. or-
The shade on these papers is crap.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it is. I guess that's what I'm getting
I
at.
don't think it will be in the area. It won't be pavement, but it won't be a lawn that will have to irrigate. or anything.
Yeah, maybe part of the meadow there.
Is there a fence around that parking?
There will be around the O&M parking, the future expansion area. I'm not sure if we're gonna include that. at the time.
I feel like you probably should, otherwise you're stealing their park space later.
Right, exactly. So establish your dominance now.
What kind of dinner you want? Let us have the
Given that there's not much parking, I know there's parking on the north-south, but on 79th, if there's no parking, is there parking along 79th east-west?
Yeah.
There is.
Well, I
No,
think-
on the
no,
north
yeah.
side, there's no parking. There's a bike lane there right now.
And
And that's,
there's 20 parking spaces though on the north-south on Trails End, right? But
yeah,
there's,
there's about 20 or so. Yeah.
but no parking on 79th, correct? It's more of a neighborhood
Right.
park.
There's 11 new homes out there too.
Street
Subdivisions
crossings
by the river.
On street crossings and access parks like this, we put in crosswalks with signal and sign or?
At this time, there isn't a signal design plan, but crossings, just the regular.
Yeah, push a button and it lights up. I guess my concern would be the families that live in the neighborhood to the south. Bunch of kids are gonna be going to a park.
That's a public works call.
Sure is.
That's what I was
I'm
thinking.
happy to say that in this meeting that's being recorded.
And it's all based on warrants, how many kids are actually walking there.
Okay. So the next board is just a list of the interpretive themes, and that's the next page in the PDF. We didn't have an easel for this.
Oh, man.
Flip it over really quick. But these themes came from the history and what was vetted during the public process. So interpretive themes could be the Kettle landform, plant restoration, prairie and oak savanna, the George and Isabella Bush homestead, trails and arena, and you can also do a story trail. So that can be set up around the trail system. And next is all these image boards, which are themes or the character of the park, and they're just suggestions based on what was vetted. These themes, like Bob mentioned earlier, can be applied to any of the layouts, so it's flexible. This first theme is a Western and agrarian theme. It's a nod to the trails and arena and the settlement history. We have things like play structures, which have horseshoe features on them. There's a picnic shelter in the back here that has a weather vane on top. It's bright red. We could do things like a play tractor or hay bales or barn type structures. This features a bench with wagon wheels on the side. So we could have a lot of fun with these things. We could also do like a zip line, which would be a cool feature. And the site is so big, you could accommodate that. And there's also little horse themed play features. And the pedestrian archway, here's an example of like a horseshoe, and you can walk through it and then have the park name on it. So these are all different things we could do with the Western theme. The contemporary theme is more forms that aren't identifiable. They're more futuristic, so they're left to the imagination, and they're really popular nowadays. There's also surfing alternatives. For example, the board in place rubberized surfacing. You can do synthetic turf play surfacing. And for splash pad options, we're showing an image of these structures that are mounted on the splash pad, and then there's also in-ground sprays. That's an option. This image is kind of hard to see. It says poured in place play space, but rather than having structures, here's an option where we're just using mounds made out of the poured in place surfacing and adding slides and things to them, so you can create a play area without including large structures, depending on the size of the playground. That's the part. And then here's like a fun basketball hoop option here. It's kind of a board with basketball hoops in all different arrangements. And then we also show on here a curved bench design. And here's an idea that can go around and highlight that significant tree. We could provide seating around there because that will be a big draw for people who are walking on the trails. They're going to want to go see the tree. And then finally, we have the nature theme at the end over there. The nature theme has been very popular. It features things like timber and boulder structures combined with rope elements. There's also at the bottom a tree house type structure as an example. That's a natural feature. And then in these lower two corners, Bob had discussed creating interest in the landscape with the excess gravel. We could create mounds and berms similar to what BEMA mounds are. And then here's an image of a community garden, if there's interest in that option, and it just shows plots and trails and a little storage gazebo structure. This board over here shows athletic recreation and site amenities. So we show an example of basketball court, a basketball court that's in a circular form, pickleball courts, and then we show what a pump track looks like. And this is actually the second designed pump track in Washington that we did.
Second paved pump track.
Second paved pump track that we did in Bellingham, Washington. We show picnic shelter, benches, trash receptacles, picnic tables, trails, and interpretive signage and wayfinding. And then this last board is about community art. So some ideas that we discussed were, the top left is a horse made out of horseshoes. So that could be an interesting feature. There's a large wheelbarrow on the right, wagon wheel sculpture, or we could do nature themed sculpture. So there's an example of a leaf, or we can have contemporary type art. So there's cut out of a dog there, and then the bottom right is a contemporary style gateway, very simple. But those are all different ideas of themes.
Did you guys put this horse sculpture? Or is that just,
No, we put it in there.
you know how much it was? Just curious.
No, I don't. I can tell you it's probably not quite the scale for a neighborhood park, more for an urban park. But we liked it so much, we put it in there.
I like it.
But the whole idea isn't necessarily that's the sculpture we're proposing here.
Yeah.
But it's an idea of what could happen here. Maybe that sculpture's half the size. Maybe we just use a bunch of horseshoes in different patterns. Like this horseshoe archway right there, maybe that archway is all made out of horseshoes that are all welded together. There's endless possibilities. We're not really trying to design that element in this park right now. What we want to know is, do you want a gateway? And if so, we'll come up with an idea for gateway later on. Because the master plan is really trying to zone the park. We're trying to get a certain size playground for this area that's just for this park. And here's the theme around it. Whether or not we use that picnic table or another picnic table, that's not the decision right now for this master plan.
So when we are at these stations with the boards, then are people writing comments or
No,
how does that work?
we're asking them if to absorb all this. And we're gonna hand these out when you walk in the door, and you'll have a pile of these with you. So if they don't have this, you can hand it out. And we're going to ask them to write their comments on here. Write their comments on here and stick them on the board if they want to. We don't want to be writing on the board.
Right.
We want to use them.
Mhm.
But if they have something particular to that one in that area, yeah, I kind of like to know.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then they will be issued a green and a red dot. And green dot is for, here's the preferred concept plan that I like.
Mhm.
And if there's an individuals that, I don't like all of this, but I like most of these things except for this, then tell us right here. Tell us right here,
You got that.
wherever they want,
On the board.
on the board.
They're easy to
Yeah.
kill off.
Yeah.
But they record, they visually record.
This is my good vote, this is my bad vote.
There's
Well, no, there's no
vote.
bad vote. You'll get a blue dot, is which
You said red dots.
Said red and green.
blue and green. Green is for the master plan
Okay,
concept that you prefer. Blue is for any one of these concepts that you prefer.
You only get one of each color? Do you get multiple dots?
here's what I found, multiple dots, is that you get all these dots and you don't, you know, I give you 5 dots, you put 5 dots on one thing, that just, you just loaded it up. I don't really get an idea whether or not.
Well, I was just thinking like, well, I like that horse, but then I really like that pump track. Well, then I really like, so like one individual thing from each board.
That's when you
Make it on the comments. Got it.
Yeah, it's just easier that way. Because, you know, at the end, we're trying to get some sort of tally of that there seems to be a preference here and there. Sometimes we like a little bit of A, we like a lot of B, we like nothing in C, or some variation thereof. But usually there is a preference that kind of rises to the top. This is a little bit different one though, because our layout here and the way this site is, it kind of leads us to lay things out in kind of the same way. For example, I wouldn't want to put the basketball court on the edge of this overlay. We're looking down there. That would
You're
make
gonna
any-
chase the ball down there all day
Yeah,
long.
that wouldn't make any sense. Yeah, and the other thing is that the reason why we have these things congregated near the street is for safety, but it's also so I can drive by and see what the heck's going on in there.
Yeah.
Because all that activity is gonna happen here. We can't survey what's going on down there. That's a whole different environment that we can't really manage until we remove the blackberries and make that a grass slope. And that would really be the goal. And yeah, a zip line would really be cool to go down to the bottom there,
Yeah.
but you gotta get back up. And then everybody, to build an ADA trail from the bottom would be not tough, but more than anybody will want to pay.
Was the idea between all 3 of these to be about the same price point, or were they just arbitrarily kind of drawn out?
Splash court pad is a big item.
Yeah.
So whatever has the splash board, which is A, that's the only one that's got the splash pad, that's gonna cost more than the rest.
I wasn't sure, because like that one doesn't have pickleball and basketball, so that was like an exchange, you get a splash pad or you get basketball.
A splash pad is, there's 3 ways to handle the water. There's the flow through, the recycle, and then the reuse. And the flow through, you'll get fried for because you're just taking that water and you're just gonna dump it in the kettle. And that's a lot of water that you're not using. And recycling it, now you have to treat that water to swimming pool standards, and that's really expensive. Thing about the splash pad is, how many splash pads do you have in Tumwater?
0. That's something you want to put in a neighborhood park where you know it's gonna be a draw.
Yeah,
from that
yeah, I
neighborhood.
know.
Yeah.
I mean, all the kids from the preserve are gonna wanna come over here and play the splash pad.
We said it before about having a splash.
Yeah.
It would draw.
You have a splash pad here, and
The nearest one's in yellow.
I'm just.
You know, there's one downtown.
There's
Olympia.
There's one in
There's
Olympia on
there's
the
one in
west side.
Olympia.
What side?
Yeah,
The one that was in yellow.
yeah, we did that one. We did the one,
Oh,
the
yeah,
other one
fantastic.
too. Yeah, but you don't have enough parking. We'd have to have a lot. And that turns this in from a neighborhood park to a destination park. Just
It's
that
on
one.
the
just that
verge
one
size wise of
Yeah.
almost being that.
It is. It is. Now, the green area you see in the middle on all 3 of these, we don't have any organized sports here, but if you wanted to play a pickup game of soccer there, you could do it. It's big enough. It would be graded that way. So, I mean, U9, U10 soccer would be fine. Yeah. If you wanted to play a full size soccer unit. And that's by intent. We could put a big soccer field there, but that was very clear. Yeah, that was very clear. And I don't blame them because it does turn into another destination. In fact, it's probably more egregious than a splash pad because with a soccer field, you could play there a lot.
Well, yeah, 3
And-
seasons.
Right, 3 seasons.
Flash pad will just be a few months.
Yeah. Another thing that we alluded here is the use of synthetic turf in small applications, not in not a big field, but maybe 2,000 or 3,000 square feet where you can have part of a play facility that would, or it could, actually the whole play area could be synthetic turf. And you can do a lot of things with that too. It has a cushion to it, so it's meets all of the safety cushioning regulations.
The value of that is the accessibility that allows a lot of people to use.
Is that not the one that's, got the little not
It does not
pebbles.
have crumb rubber in it.
Not crumb rubber, but the solid surface.
You've been to T Street Park,
Yes.
you've seen the little net there of the synthetic turf, it's just, it's the same as that, yeah.
Great.
In a small application, not a huge application, not a field. It would not have crumb rubber, it would have sand in it. It's a different type of product. It has a thatch layer in it, and it doesn't care about flyaway. So we don't use crumb rubber. Crumb rubber is used in sports field because that is the cushioning device,
Right.
is the crumb rubber.
If this park was in any part of the city that it's not going in, will we see this amount of meadow space, or is the meadow specific to this park's
Yes.
location?
Because you have a lot of great space. We could program the heck out of this, and we could put a lot more facilities in here. But it kind of morphs from a neighborhood park to a community park. And
So keeping the green space down is hopes of not setting it to be a too large park.
right. And not making it a lawn. Because I know Stan will back me on this, that, you know, it's real expensive to irrigate and fertilizer.
All maintenance.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I'm just thinking about this neighborhood out Yelm Highway. If you're going north on Yelm Highway, it's to the left before you get to the train station. Just a residential area that has a park in the middle of it. And part of the park is a soccer field that is used for competitive games.
Yeah,
There is no parking lot. It is
Right.
all street parking. And it's no big deal to the neighbors as far as I can tell when we've been out there. But, you know, like this neighborhood does not want that. It's just really interesting to me.
yeah.
Stan is.
You know, we designed that and
Oh,
that when you have neighbors that are coming in and it's already kind of there, it's different than the neighbors here have lived here for a long
So was
time.
that was built
It
before
was,
the houses
it
were
kind of
built?
went at the same time.
Oh,
yes.
okay, so they didn't necessarily have the same kind of public process because nobody owned those houses yet.
Right.
Oh, sorry, Stan, don't mean to ignore you.
Oh, no problem at all, thank you. There's a lot of room here. If you look at the map right now, and thank you for allowing me to see everything too, I appreciate it. Where the words storage work shed are on the upper left, there's an actual playground there already. That's a homeowners association playground. I'm a huge fan of inclusive play. We have some of it at Historical Park, and what that is it's ADA compliant. It allows children or adults or seniors that have trouble walking or in walkers or wheelchairs to have access to above ground opportunities. What this does though is it raises the cost of playgrounds astronomical. It's probably doubles it because you have to have firm fall zone material, rubber based, and you have to have ramps. But I just think that's the right thing to do anymore. Whether we see somebody that's disabled or not at a playground, the kids seem to enjoy that play as much as or more as a normal. Also, I think as much as I want to have a pool or some sort of water feature at a park in the city because we're Tumwater for a day, you know, I don't think this is the spot because it's just so like Bob said, it's just expensive as heck to maintain the water. Also, I did like the idea of the wildflowers. I'm backing up quite a bit. I'm sorry. I love wildflowers, and if they do get grown out, die out, they're cheap. It's easy to spread again. I do like the idea of the theme for whether it be Western or maybe aerial related. I don't know. It's up to the neighbors. I don't live in that area. I think they should have a big choice. We are, however, building like within a mile from there, another zip line at Kindred Park. There's going to be a zip line there. So I don't think a zip line is in our grasp because that does make this a destination park. Other than that, I do think we should include pickleball. That's the newest thing anymore. People are loving it. So that's just my 2 cents worth from what I've seen so far.
Thanks for your thoughts, Stan. I was actually thinking the same thing about the ADA compliant. And it's your fault I thought about it because you brought it up after our last meeting.
Yeah.
But yeah, even just including 1 or 2 components would be nice, but that's not what we're doing at this meeting, right?
No.
I'm just aim at
No, but
aim at
that's-
perfection.
Because every playground that we would be involved with would be ADA compliant. And if you want to kick it to the next level, be inclusive. we could do
Oh, I
that.
see.
We could do that too.
Inclusive.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it definitely is gonna be ADA compliant.
Okay.
Because you want it to be. You know, I guarantee you there are disabled youth population within walking distance of this park. Guarantee it.
So like ADA, all our parks are ADA.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, so like when you have a park, for example, if you're ever in a wheelchair, you get to that park, it's kind of hard to go past that
Right.
park. So all inclusive is not just for people with disabilities, everyone. So they design park, and it's a lot more in park designs now. It's kind of becoming more and more adding elements to it. But if it's going to be an all-inclusive park, they're usually double the cost.
Mhm.
There's some going in Vancouver, but they're amazing. This one you might be able to.
If I can interrupt real quick, let's use historical park as an example. There's ADA compliant elements in that park, and they're mostly to the west side of the park. However, they can't access the slide, the revolutionary spinner, the zip line, the slides, the swings, none of that. There's one element where they can access a musical area, and then they get into what is a slide that rocks back and forth, and it's really pretty cool. But that's ADA compliant. It's not inclusive. Inclusive is the entire park is inclusive. And that's just my 2 cents worth. And take it for what it's worth. Has there been any conversation around that, or should there be when we're at meeting next week? with the community?
It's more of a design thing, because this site is so flat.
Mhm.
It's not a high bar to make everything inclusive. There's no hills to deal with.
Just need the solid rubber surface so it's accessible to wheelchairs.
Well, we need pathways that are at the right grade, the right cross slope, not a problem. The play area itself can't be engineered with fiber, it shouldn't be. It should be synthetic turf or board and place surfacing, which can provide a lot of creative design. There's some examples here
Yeah.
of what that looks like. So yeah, we can do it and we intend to.
And you can still have, play structures where there's climbing elements and stuff, but you can also design it so like someone in a wheelchair could be engaged in it, just like part of it, like with their friends and stuff. So there's ways you can kind of still do it, but not have to have every play structure.
Not all the play structure has to be
Yeah,
inclusive,
just-
but having the solid surface makes it.
But design it
Yeah,
with
more
the thought of
possible.
how could they still be involved in
Yeah.
the play structure, maybe not climbing, but maybe they could be there with their friends. And participate. So there's things you can do.
But like the pickleball court, I mentioned that it's ADA adaptive.
Mhm.
There are 0 pickleball courts that meet that criteria
Oh,
in Thurston County. Yeah, and all it really is just a bigger dimension.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
Okay.
Yes, just one court.
And it's really large because of the ADA.
Yeah.
a regular one would be closer to the smaller rectangle.
Is there any kind of fencing on the pickleball?
Yes,
Okay,
there's
so
an
have it
there's an
all.
8-foot chain link fence around,
it's just so close to the road.
yeah. But there would not be a fence around basketball.
Would it be a significant cost increase to have two pickleball courts, one ADA compliant, one that isn't?
You read my mind.
Because pickleball, I mean.
That's
it's
what
like-
we're here for,
Yeah.
is to hear that type, you know, we want to hear that from, we just heard from you.
We need to hear from my mom.
You need to hear from your mom. You need to hear from the public. There's, you know, once you do that,
It's gonna bring more people.
it's, yes, you know, I mean, you can't build enough pickleball courts.
And if you gotta wait to play, that could cause some crime in the neighborhood.
I'm sure my 80-year-old mother is gonna be, going on my crying.
What we've done to help with the pickleball is Stan has painted pickleball lines in our tennis court, so it's a multi-use there as well. It is popular, it's come back. big time.
Well, they tend to, big groups go,
Yeah,
and they have we're gonna be there between 7 and 10 a.m. and they rotate who's on the courts, and so it's nice to have more than one court available. As they do this out at Rainier Vista for sure, and then in the winter, in the Y.
How many courts do they have at Rainier Vista? I know it's like 4.
I think that's the most in one space. I think on the west, they have some by the splash pad on the west
Yeah,
side.
and the tennis courts,
Is it
they've got
Couple?
pickleball courts.
Are there a couple or just one?
I think they're all-
Oh, all of them. Oh,
You can get 2 pickleball courts in a normal size tennis court. But then you got the tennis folks and the pickleball. folks, so
There's always some.
A lot of, you know, the ones that we're doing now are all dedicated to pickleball.
right.
they're not tennis thing, it's just pickleball.
We're doing a lot of,
They're cheaper than a tennis court.
yeah.
20 by 44.
Thank you.
That's the field of play.
Right,
And it's,
without the space between courts.
so, you know, I'm glad you guys talked about cost, but now's not the time to worry about it.
Right.
You know, let's find ourselves a plan that you want to endorse to council. And at that point, we will, come up with a cost. And they'll try to fund it, and maybe they'll fund it all at once, and then they'll be phased. And that's part of the process. Sometimes these things aren't all built at one time. Sometimes they are.
Any way to find out if that oak tree was there? I mean, I'm guessing it was the historical value, or is it just?
Well, I don't have it in our scope of work to hire an
Yeah.
arborist. If you have an arborist on call, you could probably,
I feel like that's a gem.
yeah,
It's like,
Galen or Kevin would love to come out there and take a look at that. They'll tell you about how old it is.
Why don't I get Kevin out, take a peek at that tree? I've got him coming out to another site next week anyway.
Okay? Yeah, I'd like to know.
Yeah, just some detail about its condition, if nothing else.
So next week, I need 4 to 5 or all of you. That'd be great. Joe's got station, he's got
You've
concept.
got
A.
A.
I think somebody's got B already, maybe.
Did you say you want to be?
I thought you said you wanted to be.
Oh, he wants A. He's on A. I wrote it in my notebook, so I don't forget.
All right, I'll take B.
I was gonna take B, but I'm flexible.
You can't pick your you.
So who else planning on being there? Joe, me, blah, blah. Sweet,
Great.
everyone but Bill.
What was
Perfect.
your name? I'm sorry. Mike.
would you do me a favor and tell Stephanie and Chuck that you're coming?
I think we're.
If you hadn't, okay, because she emailed you guys the
She didn't ask us specific, she emailed the things, but she
Yeah.
didn't ask us specifically if we were gonna be at the meeting.
She did, no, she did.
She did.
Oh, well, I'm pretty sure I didn't respond.
Shocker.
Who's taking C?
Got it.
Put me anywhere, I don't care.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, because if you have specific questions on any
Oh,
of these,
okay.
now's a good time to ask us.
Mike and I will take B because we both like it. I would like to also add a splash pad to that. We'll just do
Yeah,
all
well,
the
that's-
things.
That was my question. Well, actually, I had 2 points to make. One was about the green dots. You're saying you want to put it on the plan itself.
Yeah,
So
maybe
much-
preferably in
So,
the upper right-hand corner or someplace that doesn't cover something.
Right.
Yeah, along the
Lower
bottom.
right.
so I've been to I've been to a thing where they put things out like this and a person walks up and they choose. And the first thing that I remember seeing was the implicit bias of all the dots on one. You walk as, oh, look at all those dots on C. Everybody likes C, so I want to go with C because that seems to make consensus anyway. So at one thing I saw, they actually put the dots, they chose A, B, C, and then on the back of it is where they put their dots. So they didn't know ahead of time which one was the popular plan. They put it on the back of it when they chose. That was clever. Yes.
That is actually a nice idea.
Happy to do that.
It was a surprise which one.
It's incumbent upon everybody in this room to make sure people know that.
Okay, back.
That's fine, it's an easy one.
2, from the conservative spending side, when we're talking about costs, is a breakdown of how much it costs for each of these extra features. So how much the splash pad is, how much the basketball court is, how much a pickleball court would run, so on and so forth. And that's off the side, because that's gonna also too influence which one they may take as well too.
I don't think you want to go there.
No.
My experience tells me you don't want to go there. Yeah.
It's more of a visioning priorities and you can get the idea of that without the costs. Being specific.
I like the idea of putting the dots on the back of the plans, but on these ones here, I feel like if they're looking at one element on there, they
Yeah.
might need it on the front.
Oh, sure, you're
Yeah.
gonna have to be in front of that,
Okay.
yes.
Just wanted to clarify,
Sure.
so.
Oh, no, no, I'm talking about those
Yeah,
that are there.
Yeah,
So we will create a handout that helps explain what's going on and where to put your dot. So that when the greeter walks in, you hand that out and hopefully they read it and they'll say, hey, put that green dot on the back. Concept A, B, and C.
After you've chosen which one. Don't look first.
Yeah. Go through and make a reasonable judgment of what your preference is. But no, it'd be good. It'll be fun. Always is.
What if the attendance is low? The community involvement is not there.
We have
Then
another,
we get to
we
make
have
a
another
choice.
public meeting. Well, this happens, I mean, every single time I've done this. Is that at the second public meeting, we will have made some decisions. You would have made some decisions. People will show up that, hey, I wasn't come to the first meeting and how come you made a decision and you're jumping way ahead of things and it's just, it's the process.
Have we done mailers to the community, local, south and north?
Yeah,
They all
we
know it.
And I attended the meeting there when they were talking about the public works and there was a good turnout. So I believe you'll have a good turnout.
So you'll be surprised, when we had the first discussion about an aquatic center here in town, we had about 30 people plus in this room alone that showed up, representing all different types of aquatic backgrounds,
What they want to use.
what they wanted for it, exactly. So it's gonna have, if it's in the neighborhood area, it's gonna have a good turnout. They're interested in it.
And if you know people in the neighborhood, you can always
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah.
let them know, or I think I might put it on my Facebook page. Would that be okay?
Fine, me.
Just to informally, just to like say, hey, this meeting's happening.
Because Aaron's a huge influencer.
No, I used to live in that neighborhood, so I have a number of friends and I don't want to contact them individually. 'Cause I'm too lazy.
Very good. Next door, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, I don't like using them. I have used that one before, when they were trying to put a truck stop in. And I posted that thing on Facebook and on Nextdoor. Nope, I got a lot of people at that meeting
The meeting
who had no idea what was happening.
meeting at 7, should we be there slightly earlier to get ourselves together?
Yes.
6:30.
It's in the message.
Make sure it went down. Yep,
This
6:30.
meeting starts at 6:30.
Yeah.
So we should be there before 6. I will put 6 on my calendar. I have no idea where the Icebreakers building is. I'll have to.
Right across the pick park. Right over here.
So Bob, if I
Across
remember
the street
right, it's about
Sideways?
15
or
acres.
across?
17
On the
But
not on the
9
airport
of
side.
it's able to develop or not, or.
Yeah, 9 of it's flat.
Yeah.
This is behind
Okay.
us, yeah.
That's what I was thinking, is it back there?
We don't show it going to a point.
Yeah,
It just kind of goes off
it's a
there.
big site.
Yeah.
So it's 17 acres total, but what you guys are talking about, you can develop is 9.
About 8 or 8.
Which is a decent sized neighborhood park.
So where Barcliff, for example, is what, 3 acres?
I don't know about that.
Close.
Pretty close. That's big. I mean, it's good.
Yeah.
Good size.
Yeah.
I
The
know.
neighbors are gonna love it.
I won't look for stuff.
Shouldn't have moved there. You would have had a park.
I know, and the pickleball court. Yeah. Okay, so our next meeting, you guys have anything else?
Nope.
Our next meeting is scheduled for April 19th. I just scheduled something again, I'll have to change that. Okay. Any other questions for these guys before next week?
Will we see them at our next one in April about how they went or the updates?
Yes, because we're gonna have, a preferred alternative for you to throw darts at.
You're proposing to do that on the April 19th meeting?
Well, I don't know yet.
Okay.
I don't know yet. I hope so.
Okay, we've got to boil down to that, and then we'll try to make.
Yeah, because in the next public meeting, we don't have nailed down either. Should probably try to nail that down before next week's meeting, because that's, people are gonna ask that question.
That's a very good point.
My question to you, which one do you like?
Well, you should.
Who's buying?
No.
We're not allowed to be.
I know.
I know.
I know, that's what I think.
You've been doing this for 40-something years, just out of your experience. It's always important to know based on your experience.
Well,
what works,
I think C is probably the right size. It has a pump track. Pump track is somewhat of a destination, but you're not gonna find 100 kids coming to the pump track.
You'll find the neighborhoods riding their bikes to it.
And that's
That's
exactly what
great.
you want.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, this property is made for pump track, and they're inexpensive to build, even when you pave them. And they'll show up on social media too, just like skate. It's in that one. In that one. But I don't want that to really influence, because I could live with any of it.
I know. I like the trail. I like how long the trail goes out. Hey,
I like the frisbee golf on B.
I love the frisbee golf. I think that's fantastic.
And I like the compact.
And pickleball.
Well, we need two.
Well, we
Oh
have,
my
You got the
God.
money for it.
we have ample room
We are
for two.
already.
I know. I will make my comments.
Yes.
All right, but who wants to make that one?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Excellent, meeting adjourned. I didn't think for a second. I'm like, we're going. Thank you for seconding. Or jumping the gun.
And 5 minutes is there.
We'll see you, Stan.
Thanks,
Bye,
Dan.
Dan.
Dan, awesome job out there. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Todd, for muting me because I forgot.
It's okay.
See you in the morning. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye, Dan.